Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a new week, and of course that means the continuation of the Porsche Cup Season 3. We are back, and we're on British soil for the fourth round of the championship at the iconic Brands Hatch. Good evening to all of you. And my name is Ryan Gill. I'll be your lead host for this evening, and of course joining me in the commentary box, as always, it is Nate Norbury, and we have Jake Boswell behind the cameras. Nate, it's post 1.8. We've had a couple of races under the belt now, but it's Porsche Cup time for the first time on 1.8. How are you doing, and what do you think is going to happen tonight?
Well, I'm doing really well, thank you for asking. 1.8 Porsche Cup cars. See, I've not sat down and read all of the patch notes. I've been told a lot, and that's normally how I get most of my information. But I mean, Porsche Cup cars are hard enough as it is. I mean, I'd hate to be driving one of these into Paddock Hill, because the way the track drops away, it's very easy to snatch a front wheel there. But the new patch, I've heard mixed reviews. Some people saying it's easier to drive the cars with traction off, which obviously these cars have by default. There's no traction control on these bad boys. And I've heard people saying that it's easier to catch slides with traction on now, and it's just, I'm hearing a lot of mixed things, so I honestly have no clue how we're going to fare tonight. But it seems some of the drivers already fairly confident and fairly up to speed with the changes in these cars, Ryan.
Yeah, there has been a degree of adaptability required for a lot of drivers for the 1.8 update, and well, some of the drivers have fared better than others, but as per usual around here at least, for the Monday Championship, it is Wolf Matuszka at the top of the timing tables. 126.2 is about 3.5 tenths clear at the top of the table in practice. And you said to me earlier on, Nate, you said if Wolf Matuszka is out doing practice, then that means he feels like he needs it. And I mean, with the 1.8 update having come out, so recently, maybe he does feel that he needs it. But maybe with the 1.8 update, do you think it's more of a level playing field here tonight? Because everyone's had to kind of reset and relearn how to drive these cars to an extent.
Well, I mean, there's only one way we're going to find out, and that's by sitting here and watching this until the end of tonight. I mean, the familiar names are all sort of around the top. Obviously, Wolf Matuszka leading the pack. Andy Boardman floating around there. Sundstrom also up in there. So it doesn't seem like it's changed the pecking order too much, but obviously we are only in a practice session. Some drivers might be keeping a little bit in their back pocket just to see what they can do in qualifying.
So as we get to the end of the practice session then, Wolf Matuszka does lead the way from Gegli Gaspar and Klaus Niering. Here is Andy Boardman. He's currently the second place driver in the championship, 65-point deficit he has to overcome in the second half of this season if he is going to make a championship challenge out of this season. As it stands, if Wolf Matuszka increases the gap between himself and Andy Boardman again here tonight, he could head into round 5 with a chance of wrapping up the championship mathematically before the final round of the season. So depending on how things go here tonight for Wolf Matuszka, could be crowned champion next week. So interesting to keep an eye on that. And of course, Andy Boardman will be hoping that he can get one over on Wolf Matuszka this time around. We saw Wolf make a rare mistake at Spa in the rain, and unfortunately Martin Lawrence couldn't capitalise on it. And Andy Boardman did lose more points to the likes of Wolf Matuszka. So not being able to capitalise on a rare mistake from a driver like Wolf is it is going to hurt your championship chances. But Jordan Daly here in the Triple R Academy Porsche, and a very nice drift around the Brands Hatch circuit. Jordan Daly definitely practicing for the stunt show later on today. We'll get another bit of a replay from that. Bit of grass trimming as well. Won't to be doing that too much around here though, as we will get a fair bit of pressure loss. We have qualifying coming up in just a minute. It's the standard 10-minute qualifying session, as it has been for the entire season so far.
Green light. Go, go, go.
And of course, it is very cloudy out here at Brands Hatch. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and very dark skies, Nate, over a track that is, well, you can see it on screen there. popular for some slight drizzle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Ryan. I've been fortunate enough to visit this track twice. I say fortunate twice, but I mean, I live a fair way away from it. Once for a DTM event, and once for actually this August for SRO Europe, which was just an amazing experience. And I was fortunate enough the second time to avoid the rain, but the first time, forecasted, sunny skies, brilliant day out. I was like, oh, brilliant. I'll just rock up in a shirt and trousers, and yeah, Brands Hatch, English weather, sort of pulled the old switcher on me, and it absolutely hammered it down. So I'm sure a lot of these drivers here will have banked on the race being dry, so have mainly got dry setup. So fingers crossed for them that it doesn't rain.
Well, there has been no talk about rain on the practice servers in the week building up to the race. There were some weather changes in the 1.8 update, so it does mean that the weather works a bit differently to how it used to, but as far as we know, well, the practice servers have been on the 1.8 update pretty much since the moment they were up. There was no point putting them up after the Monday night race, especially with the update coming out so soon. But here we have Nico Kumpu starting his qualifying lap. He's going to start the first lap of the session as well. Here we go then, down up rather, into Paddock Hill Bend, and then down out on the exit, riding the curb on the outside and up towards Druids. Stick the car tight on the inside, but don't touch the curb, and stabilise the car. Then go all the way down towards Graham Hill Bend. Tug the car right on the inside, and then maximise your exit here as much as you can. Don't touch the grass though, as you come onto the Cooper Straight and then into Surtees, one of the more difficult corners on the circuit. Want to be really, really tight to the apex, and don't use too much of the runoff there or you'll find yourself in the grass. Then you go on to Pilgrim's Drop and earn up through Hawthorne's Hill, and that leads you to Hawthorne's Bend. Throw the car in the fast right-hander, use what little of the exit curb you have, and then this is where you have to be really, really committed. Westfield End, got to be so committed on there. Then drag the car out as wide as you can through Dingledell, and then into Sheen Curve. Got to try and ride over the crest of the curve. Nico Kumpu seeming to avoid it on that occasion, and then into Stirling's we go. Maximise the exit as much as you can, again avoiding the grass on the outside line. Through Clearways we go and into Clark Curve. 9 corners around this circuit, fairly short sprint around, and Nico Kumpu up towards the timing line now. It's going to hug the inside, get the shortest run up to the line. Across the line he goes, and it is a 1:27.680 for Nico Kumpu to start out the session.
While all that was going on, Ryan, unfortunately Bart Matcher had a little bit of an incident coming through, I think it was Dingledale, and unfortunately had to walk the car back to the pit. So we'll be keeping an eye on him to see if he can get, well, definitely not as long of a lap as it was at Spa, but yeah, obviously more pressure on him now. He doesn't have his banker lap in, so potentially might be starting this one from the back of the grid.
Well, we'll have to see what comes of it. Of course, 10-minute qualifying session means we don't have the longest amount of time to get your laps in, and here is Jordan Daly coming along now. He hasn't got a lap in yet, just about to come across the line though with 6 minutes remaining of the session. Jordan Daly will go straight up to 8th, and he'll be about 0.4 of a second off the provisional pole time at the moment. And well, one of the more important things for me at least, Nate, to look out for on the first time by of the banker laps is Klaus Neering has taken the provisional pole so far, just about a 10th ahead of Wolf Matuszka.
I did notice that, and obviously, you know, welcome to the Nate Picks One driver and fans over them for the entire season. Yeah, very surprised to not see Wolf Matuszka out there. Again, I feel very much like this is the 2010 to 2013 era of Formula One, where we sort of turn up at a track, everyone expects Vettel to be pole and walk away from it, and we're all sort of surprised when that doesn't happen. So be interesting to keep an eye on well, all of the drivers really, and see who lands where.
Yeah, we'll have to see where everyone is, and well, look at that. Mikael Sundstrom, who's had a bit of a challenging season so far, goes on to provisional pole, 2 tenths clear of Gegli Gaspar, who had improved on his time as well, but it's about 7/10 clear, or near enough, of what Wolf Matuszka had managed to do. So that banker lap from Wolf was not one of his better banker laps, and his current lap that he's just come across the line to reset was invalid as well. So Wolf Matuszka maybe having a bit of a challenge here in qualifying. Looked pretty comfortable in practice. Seems to be a bit of a different story so far in the qualifying session. 3 drivers currently without a lap time. Bart Matcher, one of those that Nate, you talked about just a moment ago. And then we've also got Miska Suominen and Carlos Kalatiud without a lap time on the board so far. Josef Varga rounding out the top 20 at the moment in the Multi-21 racing car, and he is just about 1.8 seconds out of where he needs to be towards provisional pole. He'll be coming up towards the line in a moment. He's up by 9/10 of a second as he comes across the line. That throws him up into 13th. Currently we have the top 14 drivers within 1 second of the provisional pole sitter, which is still Mikael Sundstrom at this point in time, but he's on an invalid lap at this stage, so he won't be improving this time around. And someone who isn't on an invalid lap is Wolf Matuszka, but he's not up on his lap time. He's down by 7/10, so he's obviously going for, well, at least one more go with this, but Wolf at the moment down in 9th.
Yeah, it's quite, well, I say it's quite unusual to see. We've only sort of been around here with these drivers a few times, or around this season I should say, but yeah, it's not quite what, well, me personally I expected. Ryan, I'm sure you're in the same boat, but I mean, obviously to say, oh, Wolf Matuszka's not having a good run really takes away from the other drivers. Really what we should be saying is what fantastic laps from Sundstrom, Norquist, Gaspar, you know, those boys up in, you know, the top 3 to really get themselves where they are and be faster than, you know, the crowd favourite Wolf Matuszka.
The Swedes coming out in style at the moment with Mikael Sundstrom and Victor Norquist on the front row of the grid. Gegli Gaspar, by the way, is up on his lap time as he's coming through the final couple of corners now. We're looking at Klaus Niering. He's down a bit down the order, but he's going to come across the line, and that is going to be a new provisional pole. And Gegli Gaspar improves as well, and both of them are split by just under 1/10 of a second. But Klaus Niering sets a new provisional pole time for everyone else to beat, and it's a 1:26.580 from the number 23. Wolf Matuszka still down the order, now down to 13th.
Yeah, perhaps as you mentioned at the start, well, at the start of the broadcast, and I mentioned to you just before we went live, Wolf Matuszka out in practice must mean he, you know, doesn't feel confident in the car, and apparently, you know, evidently he doesn't, to be down where he is. But I mean, what this really means for us, though, Ryan, and for everyone watching, is that perhaps now we get to watch an incredible fight back through the field from Wolf Matuszka. And was that Niering that just went fastest then, while we were talking about that?
Niering went fastest just a few moments ago. Mikael Sundstrom improved on his lap time as well, though. He's just a 10th, just over 1/10 away from provisional pole, and Gegli Gaspar is up on his time by 1/10 of a second as well. That would be enough to throw him onto provisional pole. Gegli Gaspar coming through the final corner now, and up towards the timing line we will go. Slightly wide, though, coming through the final corner. That has probably lost them some time. They'll come up across the line, and they will not improve. Just slightly shy of the lap time they'd achieved. I think if they hadn't got the final corner wrong, probably would have been a good shout for provisional pole. But fortunately for the likes of Gegli Gaspar, he'll get one more go at it with 34 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, so sort of all these drivers now, obviously, you know, this is push time, it's crunch time. So Wolf Matuszka will get a second lap if, or a final lap, I should say.
He's down again, though.
Well, yeah, see, so it's going to make the race interesting. I'm quite excited for this to see what's happening. But now, this is crunch time for Wolf Matuszka. We really need to see, well, he needs to dig deep to see what he can pull out. And I've got a feeling Sundstrom will be the final lap if he chooses to run again.
Sundstrom is the last driver to cross the line whilst it
big
was
snap.
still valid. Putting on a bit of a show through Paddock Hill Bend, but that won't do his lap time any good. Ethan Scott sitting in 7th place at the moment. Also, do keep an eye on... Oh, and there goes Ethan Scott. I was saying he was sitting in 7th place. He won't go any higher than that in the qualifying session. Do keep an eye on Wolf Matuszka, by the way. He is down in 16th place, but up on his lap time. And if there is any driver you would put your bets on to come out with a clutch lap towards the end of a qualifying session, Wolf Matuszka would be up there. Here is Andy Boardman, a driver that really does need to finish ahead of Wolf Matuszka here today, and he won't go any higher than 7th. So he goes off at the final corner, and that means that Andy Boardman will not go any higher than he is. Wolf Matuszka is on a valid lap. He's about 4.5 tenths of a second, looking like half a second up on his lap time. That would take him up into the top 10. It would not be ideal, but it would be a lot better than 18th, where he sits right now, comes through the final corner, 6 tenths of a second up. He lost through the final corner. Up he goes and into 4th. Right at the end, Wolf Matuszka comes good with a brilliant lap time, but for a moment there, was looking a little bit concerning for the 25.
Yeah, it wasn't looking like he was going to sort of, well, be anywhere near the front of the field for a moment. But what this means is, for some of the other drivers, say Andy Boardman, for example, is they have a really, really good chance to try and take some points away from Wolf Matuszka for their championship fight.
They definitely do. So it will be Klaus Niering then on pole with Mikael Sundstrom alongside him. 22 thousandths of a second separating the drivers on the front row of the grid. Before we get into the grid and, of course, the formation lap for this evening, though, it's important to have a look at the championship standings. And it is Wolf Matuszka that leads by 65 points over Andy Boardman in the number 69 kart, so 213 to 148. Boardman has to start closing that gap before it gets too late. Nico Kumpu on 117 points, just 6 points ahead of the pole sitter for tonight, Klaus Niering. And then Mikael Sundstrom just in behind with 108. Martin Lawrence not here tonight, unfortunately, on 98 points. And Mohamed Malik with 95. Ethan Scott, 92. Lubomir Zeman, 84. And Paulo Lima on 82. But something I've noticed there is that we have Finland, Denmark, and Sweden all in a row as we go down through the top 5 of the championship order. We have Bart Matcher just outside the top 10. On 72 points, Andres Sarka with 68, and John Aracer on 63. He is just 1 point ahead of Olaf Leffer, who is 1 point ahead of Martin Olajars in the number 15. Victor Nordquist is currently in 16th in the championship with 49 points. Carlos Calatiad has 46 points, and then just 2 points behind is Youssef Varga, and then 2 points behind him is Jordan Daly, with Sem Smeets with 40, rounding out the top 20. Gegely Gaspar, who's had a very good qualifying session here today, is all the way down in 21st in the championship standings. Lindgren in 22nd, Miska Suominen and Carlson in 23rd and 24th. Messi Kingston Lee in 25th. And then we have Vince van Mervelde, and unfortunately signed out of the championship. Steven van Kampen in 27th, Nico Kuzma 28th. And Savaseries and Chris Rubelar down towards the bottom. Chris Rubelar, of course, unfortunately not in the championship, signed out after the first round. So, back to Brands Hatch, and there's no rain in the skies just yet, but plenty of clouds as Jake Boswell gives you a little bit of a drone cam view from the back to the front of the grid. And now, Nate, it's time to play your favourite game. It's time to play the game that everyone loves to know what your answer is going to be tonight. Because Wolf Matuszka, for once, is not on the front row of the grid.
Wolf Matuszka is not on the front row of the grid. But he didn't look, well, yeah, you have to say he didn't look confident with the car around the track. I mean, obviously, Niering, Sundstrom, and Gaspar all sort of, like you said, very, very close to each other. And then Wolf Matuszka sort of was 4 tenths off them, almost half a second back. So, I mean, whether he's maybe set the car up for his race trim as opposed to qualifying trim, and hopefully that gives him the leg up in the race. We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, I'll go with fan favorite. I'll say Wolf Matuszka for the win, but I would definitely keep my eye on Sundstrom.
Well, Nate's going for his traditional pick, keeping it consistent around here. And you know what? I'm going to go for Mikhail Sundstrom here today. Obviously, one of RCI's very own, one of our moderators. And, you know, I think he's had some hard luck in the championship so far. I mean, the Imola race wasn't particularly great for him, but he's put that behind him now. And I think this might be Mikhail's time to come good. You know, he has looked good out there in practice. He looked good out there in qualifying. And I think if he, you know, maybe just hadn't gone a bit wide in the final corner, could have possibly taken that pole position away from Klaus Nearing. So Mikhail Sundstrom, one to watch out for here tonight. And as we pan through the grid here, we have about 48 seconds until the start of the formation lap. And we will have a 60-minute race here today. Of course, 57-minute pit window, one mandatory stop. All they have to do is take a minimum 1 litre of fuel. And of course, we have our live stewards today who will be overseeing all the incidents on track to make sure that any penalties are handed out where needs be. And they'll be hoping for a nice, quiet race tonight, Nate, like they had at Imola.
I don't think Brands Hatch particularly lends itself to quiet nights in for the stewards, but you know, the drivers actually have been quite well behaved throughout this series, so you know, maybe for the steward's sake, they can have a quiet night in. But we'll have to wait and see. I've got a feeling turn 1 might be a bit of a mess at the start of this race.
Well, pull away they do for the start of the formation lap. It will be Klaus Nearing alongside Mikhail Sundstrom, then Gegely Gaspar and Wolf Matuszka. Victor Nordquist lines up alongside Nico Kubbu with Andres Carlsen and Andy Boardman on the 4th row of the grid. Ethan Scott and Mamad Malik round out your top 10. Then it's followed with Sharka, Lima, Leffer, Zeman, Kuizma, Daly, Matcha, Teres, Eraser, Lindgren, Kalatiud. And then further down the field, it's Suominen, Varga, Kampen, and Kingston Lee to round out the grid. He'll be on his own row. At the back will be the 555. 25 drivers here tonight of the 30 that signed up for the season. So we have almost a packed grid. And I suppose we head into the unknown, Nate, because like we said, there's the 1.8 update has thrown things up in the air a bit, and we've seen that in a couple of the races already. A bit in the Thursday Championship, the Friday Championship, which was definitely an interesting one, with the Porsches looking pretty good at the likes of Monza, and the Bentleys as well looking absolutely incredible out in their race trim. And it was ultimately Tinko van der Velde in a McLaren that ended up winning that race. So there was definitely a lot of differences to the norm that we usually see out at the Temple of Speed. But what will the Porsche Cup offer us for Monday night? We're here at Brands Hatch for the first time in the Porsche Cup. In the previous 2 seasons, we have not visited this circuit before. And of course, that means that for a lot of these drivers, there are some very big unknowns. And of course, the 1.8 update adds to that already. But if Mikhail Sundstrom's performance in the qualifying session here today is anything to go by, I think he's getting along well with the 1.8 update.
Yeah, it's definitely benefited some drivers more than others, it seems. The problem is, as well, obviously, it's a different track. You know, we can't really make an apples-to-apples comparison of, you know, the new patch to how it affects the drivers. But, I mean, it's, like I said, definitely favoured some more than others, and it's really shown that in the qualifying grid we've got here today.
It definitely has. So here we go then. We're about to head into 60 minutes of Cup car action. Klaus Nearing will lead them around as he waits for the field to bunch up in 2x2 as far as you can see. And he will be the first one to reach the timing line. The lights are about to go out. 60 minutes of racing, 1 mandatory pit stop. It is cloudy out here at Brands Hatch. 21 degrees ambient, 27 on track. There is no wind around the circuit at the moment, and clouds in the sky. Will it rain? We'll have to find out as the green flag drops for tonight. And here we go. Klaus Nearing does look to get a good start, but Mikael Sundström on the outside line, not going to look to sweep around the outside. And Wolf Matuszka has had a very good start. He's got ahead of Gegely Gaspar right away and up into third place. As we look back through the field, no accidents into the first corner. We come through the second corner as well, and it still looks pretty good at the moment. Everyone keeping it clean so far.
Yeah, honestly, I'm very surprised that there wasn't just a huge sort of mess in the midfield there coming into turn one, but all these drivers obviously realizing that, you know, you don't win it on the first lap in the first corner. There's a lot more at stake here. So played it safe, played it cool, and now we've got ourselves a race going on, Ryan.
Wolf Matuszka putting pressure on Mikael Sundström early on here. Mikael Sundström, you know, obviously he's very aware of the pace of Wolf Matuszka. He was giving a little flash of the lights to Klaus Nearing up in front. Klaus Nearing starting to pull a bit of a gap here, almost 7/10 as we haven't even got to the end of the first racing lap. And Mikael Sundström maybe already having to think defensively, although Klaus Nearing did seem to get a bit out of shape there as he came through Sheens, but he's going to keep the lead and the advantage he holds right now. And I think for Matuszka, all of his focus will be on the back end of Mikael Sundström's car and how he can get past them. Gegely Gaspar, by the way, did not have a great start. Not only did he lose out to Wolf Matuszka on the start, he's dropped back behind Nico Kumpu now as well, the number 6 up into 4th place. So it has not been a great start for a driver that really is in need of some good points here tonight.
Yeah, while all that was going on, there was a few yellow flags going on, and we've already got Bart Matcher in the pits. Not sure if that's for damage or if it's just to get himself some clear air to really pump in some solid laps and maybe leapfrog a couple of people. I think he did that in Spa, and it went particularly well for him up until it didn't. Unfortunately, contact really sort of ruined his race, obviously hoping to avoid a repeat of that, and Bart is back out of the pits now, which would suggest no damage on that car, just an early pit stop.
Well, we saw Bart Matcher do a fantastic strategy at Imola, didn't he, where he came out into 4th place by the end of it through pitting early and getting out of traffic. This is a circuit which is a lot more difficult to overtake on than somewhere like Imola, so pitting early and getting out of traffic if you're quicker than the cars ahead could be a very, very good strategy here tonight, assuming no one else gets their wits about them and starts to do the same thing. Klaus Nearing, who had, you know, created a bit of a gap, does seem to have had that gap brought in a little bit by the 899. Mikael Sundström at the moment not too concerned about Wolf Matuszka in behind. He's happy to just sit there and follow Klaus Nearing and not bother about the championship leader at this point. And Nico Kumpu, actually, as we come across and finish the second flying lap, or the first proper flying lap of the race, Nico Kumpu with the fastest lap of the race, and you can see that indicated by the purple icon over his position in the race.
I really like that. That's a nice update. As we see Jordan Daly going for a move down the inside into Druids, gets it done nice, clean, no contact. Or as we see, who was that got a little bit squirrely? Was that Zeman?
That was
no,
Savaceres and Jordan Daly, wasn't it? So Jordan Daly getting past the 889. Savaceres, who is getting a bit out of shape as he comes out of the exit of turn 4. Then we're looking back to Youssef Varga in the 221. He's closing in at the moment on the likes of John Aracer in the 699. And here we have a little bit of a race replay. This is Carlos Calatayud and Miska Suominen. Ooh! Miska Suominen just trying to get through a little bit of a gap. Oh, and Calatayud a bit too eager on the power, coming back on and spun into the barrier as well by the looks of it. I think Miska Suominen there just trying to get through that gap, seeing an opportunity, going for it, and a slight bit of contact causes themselves and Carlos Calatayud to go wide. We'll have to see what the stewards think of that once they get around to viewing it, but up towards the front. 3 laps down, Klaus Nearing now has the fastest lap of the race and starting to create a bit more of a gap between himself and Mikael Sundström.
Yeah, it's looking like Nearing's really got this one sort of dialed in, really got a nice setup on the car, it seems. Just sort of been able to put the car where he wants it. He goes for the corner and the car just responds to him. putting, like you said, a little bit of a gap, and it seems also Wolf and Tushka stuck behind Sundstrom, can't seem to find a way past at the moment.
Victor Nordquist then currently sitting in 6th place. He's just ahead of Andy Boardman. Andy Boardman also has Ethan Scott just in behind him. And looking back at the qualifying results, Andy Boardman up by 1 place. Victor Nordquist down by 1. And Nico Kumpu, obviously, who started in 6th up into 4th. He's been one of the, I would say, big gainers. I mean, it's 2 places, but it is 2 significant places in the top 10 as well that he has managed to steal early on in this race. But Andy Boardman will be hoping that he can get past the likes of Victor Nordquist and close the gap to Wolf Matuszka up ahead.
Yeah, and while we've been sort of focused on the battle up front, the 404 of Bart Matcher has passed the other drivers that have pitted, so he is the lead car that stopped early, which, again, all signs pointing to him doing a repeat of Imola.
Does look like he is aiming for a repeat of Imola as well. We also have Christian Lindgren and Olaf Leffer, Paulo Lima and Ceres, who have also come into the pit lane now. We're seeing a replay at the moment. There is Bart Matcher. So looked like maybe there was a bit of contact between himself and one of the cars behind, but nothing significant. And oh, Bart, that's not what you want to be doing if you're on a strategy to be gaining time by having clear air, going well wide through the final corner and losing some time as well. And Matthew Kingston Lee, by the looks of it, is off track, having to rejoin, does so safely and gets motoring again, but he's definitely caught himself out or been involved in an incident because he's just dropped off the back of the pack. Now we're on board with Wolf Matuszka, who is chasing down Mikael Sundstrom at this point. And I wonder if Wolf is just happy to sit here at the moment because, you know, Mikael's a lot further back than him in the championship. I mean, Wolf Matuszka has almost double Mikael Sundstrom's points at this stage, and Klaus Nearing isn't really too much of a concern either in that regard. So do you think Wolf Matuszka's just happy to sit here at the moment, just happy to, you know, wait for third at the moment?
Personally, I don't think any of these drivers would be happy to sit behind someone else. You know, they all want to win. They all want, you know, the race win as well as the championship win. But I don't know, maybe Wolf's a little bit more calculated than I am, and is, like you said, playing that long game, realizes that there's no point making a risky move and potentially taking himself out of position for, well, marginal gains at the moment, as we see, whoa, one car getting a bit squirrely in the background and then an overtake. Where did the... Oh, he's just that far ahead, it seems.
Mohamed Malik in 8th place at the moment for the Project Reborn team. And he's got Carlson in behind him, although a bit of a gap between the two of them. So there's about 0.4 of a second. It looks a bit bigger than that, at least to me. And Mohamed Malik will continue on his way. He's picked up a couple of top 10 finishes already this season, and we'll be hoping to continue that here. He's in 8th place right now, and so I look even further down the field. No further drivers going for that early stop at this stage. We're almost 10 minutes into the race, and Bart Matcher still leads the way of the drivers that have finished that mandatory pit stop, so we'll have to see how all of that works out a bit later on. And here is Andy Boardman down in 15th. That doesn't look too good, and I think we're about to find out what happened. Oh, he lost the car on his own. Oh, and he tagged Ethan Scott as well. Lost the car through Paddock Hill Bend. It looks like Ethan Scott recovered the car, actually, very well. We didn't exactly see that on screen, but he did get pointing the right direction. But Andy Boardman lost a lot of places in doing so, and he is now going to come in for an early pit stop, get it out of the way, get back out on track, and hope that he can capitalize on having some clear air ahead of him and just see if maybe he can start to bring back that gap and all those places that he's lost so early on.
Yeah, such an unfortunate accident. Obviously, the rear end just gets a little bit light coming down the hill. And then, yeah, unfortunately, no traction on these cars. Once it sort of goes, they're very, very hard to bring back into line. And unfortunately, Andy couldn't catch it. And that's really, really put a big dent in his championship hopes.
Well, Andy Boardman's championship hopes don't seem to be doing any better. Wolf Matuszka currently sitting third. Andy Boardman, well, all the way down in 23rd at the moment. And as it stands, well, Wolf Matuszka can't mathematically wrap up the championship this race. But, well, if he gets a third place here tonight and Andy Boardman finishes well down the order, he won't have to finish very high up at Hungaroring to close out the championship early. Meanwhile, Mikael Sundström still out here defending, going very, very wide, touching the gravel slightly, and here comes Wolf Matuszka, just waiting to capitalise on a slight mistake from Mikael Sundström. Up the inside goes the number 25, and up into P2. Mikael Sundström couldn't really defend from Wolf Matuszka. As soon as Matuszka was on the inside, he was up alongside. There's only one winner through the inside.
Oh, that was like a shark when it smells blood, isn't it? It was just, as soon as Sundström made a mistake, Matuszka was just there, ready to capitalise on it. Really, you know, really impressive driving to, well, stick that close to... It was such a small mistake as well. And that's what, you know, differentiates, you know, great drivers from good drivers, is he managed to stick that close. They, you know, no contact was made between them. And obviously that tiny mistake got through, and now he's off up the road after nearing.
Andras Scharker currently defending from Jordan Daly and looking to capitalise on a mistake from Carlson as well. Goes on through and into the top 10, and now Jordan Daly having a little bit of a look as well, seeing if he could follow through, but no luck for Daly on this occasion. He'll have to bide his time, and well, he's not going to bide his time much longer. He's going to go on the inside of Carlson. Oh, slight touch between the two of them as Daly got the better run out of the corner. He's going to have the outside line as they come into the final corner, and he's going to close it out and just get ahead. Jordan Daly, well, he saw Sarka go through and thought, you know what, I'm going to have to keep up with this guy. Made the move, made it stick, and that was a fantastic move from Jordan Daly.
Yeah, nicely done. There was a little bit of contact, but, you know, rubbing is racing, as we always say. So hopefully he'll get off up the road and break away from the pack. Otherwise, no doubt that Carlson will be after that position back if Daly makes a mistake. I'm tripping over my words here.
Olaf Leffer chasing down Christian Lindgren at this point, and we have a little bit of a train of cars that have completed a pit stop. You've got Bart Batcher at the front, followed by Lindgren, Leffer, and then Lima in behind. And just in the background, you might have been able to see him, was Andy Boardman. Oh, and there's Olaf Leffer getting out of shape. Is Lima going to capitalise on that? No, he's just a bit too far back. And that could have been very, very bad, very, very quickly for Olaf Leffer, but manages to keep the car pointed in the right direction and not too far behind the likes of Christian Lindgren either. And then looking further up towards the front, it is Klaus Neering leading the way, and he's got a 1.2 second lead on Wolf Matuszka. And I suppose the big question is going to be now, does Wolf Matuszka fight for this win? Does he make to look at 4 in a row after what was a rather scrappy qualifying session for the 25, it has to be said? Can he maybe put that behind him, go out there, get a win here today, and really assert himself into that championship winning picture? And going slightly wide at the looks of it on the exit of the corner, not really gaining too much out of it though, as Glenn Wright has just popped into the commentary box and just passed me a few pieces of paper, and I think the stewarding decisions are coming through very swiftly as we speak.
So looks like there's a move potentially on here though. Oh, Olaf Leffer just putting the car in the middle of the track, just wide enough to stop any potential move from Lima there. But now Lima's coming up the inside. Is he going to be later on the brakes? No, not quite. Leffer covers him off. But he's gone deep into the corner now, but he's squirrely on the exit as well, but still manages to just stay ahead. I've got a feeling, Ryan, we're going to have some pretty interesting battles coming into Druids in the next few laps.
Definitely so. It does seem like, despite the difficulty of overtaking around here, that the drivers are loving it out here in the Porsche Cup car, and there is definitely some good chances for overtaking. And here we go, Paulo Lima using the straight line speed and the slipstream that he has of the car to get right up close to the back of Olaf Leffer and just hoping now, with how close he is, that Olaf Leffer makes a mistake that he can capitalise on. We saw Andrew Saka do that earlier on in the race, and then we saw Jordan Daly follow on through. And speaking of Jordan Daly, here he is defending from Carlson. Hasn't managed to keep up with the likes of Saka, and now here comes Carlson. Is he going to be on the inside? Is he going to brake later? No, he's just going to tuck in behind to be really, really close to the back of Jordan Daly's car. And meanwhile, all this is going on, Nico Quizma's just sat in the background watching all of this, saying, okay, keep it up, boys. If there's a bit of an incident, I'm going to be right here and right ready to pounce.
Yeah, sometimes that's the smart thing to do. If you see two cars ahead of you looking like they're getting a little bit scrappy, you just have to hold back. Eventually, you know, they probably will collide, and then, as you mentioned, you can just sneak on through and make up two positions.
Glenn Wright, the race controller today, handing me the incident report. Lap 1 incident, turn 8, involving the 30 and the 48. Warning for car 30 for avoidable contact. And I think that's what we're going to see here. So this is Carlos Calatayud just touching Miska Surminen on the back there. And that is a warning for Carlos Calatayud, and then they spiraled off into the barrier. I think Calatayud has since retired, so
he has, that's correct.
That warning very much in mute point at this point in the race, as we see Wolf Matuszka now starting to close the gap to the leader. Lap 5, turn 1 incident involving the 69 and the 34 was judged as a racing incident. The 69 spins on the exit, and they are slightly tapped by Ethan Scott behind, but the stewards judged that Ethan Scott couldn't have reacted in time to that incident ahead. I'm inclined to agree with that, considering how close they were at the time. And then lap 8, turn 9, involving the 134 and the 197, judged as a racing incident. We're about to see that one right here. And, yes, this is just Jordan Daly and Andreas Carlson just getting a tiny bit physical with each other, but everything's good there, and the stewards will not be punishing those kind of contacts. And that is all we have so far, and it's all looking pretty clean out there.
It is. It's looking good. It seems like everyone's got their little spins and spills out of the way sort of early on, and now we're sort of getting on with the hard racing as we see Wolf Matuszka, as you mentioned, Ryan, just slowly closing in on Nearing there, but Nearing doing a fine job to sort of, well, he's not holding there because it is coming down, but the gap is only coming down very, very, very marginally per lap. So I wonder if this is going to be one of those to see if they pit together, or if one of them pits earlier, tries to undercut the other, or even the opposite, stays out to overcut the other one. The possibilities are endless.
I think if I'm Klaus Nearing at the moment, and I know that Wolf Matuszka is potentially quicker than me, I'm going to wait until he blinks first. You want to leave it as late as you can, but at the same time, you don't want to give Wolf Matuszka the benefit of that clear air, because we know exactly what he can do with it. So, going to be interesting to see how all of that develops, and Olaf Leffer trying to get past Christian Lindgren. Kind of just feel at the moment, with how close all of these cars are, that Bart Matcher, maybe, well, unintentionally, being a bit of a cork in the bottle for some of these cars. And despite the fact he was the first driver to pitted at the end of the first lap, maybe just doesn't have the pace over some of these other cars, and is just holding up some of the other drivers that decided to go for the little clever strategy of pitting early.
Yeah, but maybe Matcher's maybe just saving his tyres. Obviously, Brands Hatch, quite a traction and limited circuit. I'd say he's playing the long game here. I mean, if he is, potentially it might be better for him to let these cars go, and then towards the end of the race, as their tyres start to fall off, he could just coast on past them. But again, Ryan, we will never know how these drivers think.
No, it's very difficult to put yourself into the mindset of some of these guys. I mean, definitely because we don't have their pace. Ryan Mawson can definitely put himself into the mind of a lot of these drivers, because he is as quick as a lot of these drivers. But we unfortunately don't have that luxury, and that is Nico Kumpu now up in front of Jordan Daly. He was in behind just watching Daly and Carlson go at it, and, well, not only has Carlson got back through on Jordan Daly, now Nico Quizma has followed through, and Jordan Daly getting a bit out of shape coming out of Druids as well. So Nico Kuzma just benefiting, playing the patient game and gaining a place out of it. And Jordan Daly now has a bit more work to do here tonight as he's down to 13th.
Yeah, I don't think it's been ideal for a few of the races here tonight. Obviously, one of them being Andy Boardman. As mentioned in the build-up to the race, this was his chance to really sort of get in amongst and potentially take some points away from Wolf Matuszka, but unfortunately it's not worked out too well for him. I think Ethan Scott's having a decent recovery after the unfortunate contact he had again with Andy Boardman, as we see a couple of cars kicking up some dust ahead of us. But we'll, well, you know, we still got 40 minutes left of the race, Ryan, and it feels like we've had a fair amount of action.
It definitely does feel like we've had a lot happen in a very short space of time. A third of the race down, 2/3 left to go as Victor Norquist defends from Ethan Scott. Ethan Scott getting a bit out of shape there through Paddock Hill Bend as well, and it definitely seems like a lot of the Cup cars struggling in particular through that sector of the track, but Ethan Scott does recover the car and gets pointed back in the right direction. Meanwhile, Bart Matcher still having to defend from Christian Lindgren. And here is Andy Boardman, actually, who's caught up to Olaf Leffer. It was about a 4.4 second gap. He's now closed that down, and he's going to be looking to get past the 308 sooner rather than later.
Sorry, Ryan, to butt in there. Nearing is P2. Wolf Matuszka's got past him.
He is P2, that's correct. It hasn't updated on the timing board on the left-hand side, or it has now as they cross over into Sector 3. But Klaus Nearing, something has clearly happened, and it's happened even before the replay has potentially picked that up, because Klaus Nearing had already lost the position at that point in time. That's happened early on in the lap. It's obviously happened at the end of the first sector, going into Sector 2, so I'm assuming Klaus Nearing, maybe he's gone wide at Surtees, possibly, before Pilgrim's Drop, and then that's where Wolf Matuszka has made the pass. Either way, Matuszka now leads, Klaus Nearing in second, with Sundström third. Klaus Nearing does still have the fastest lap of the race, though, those points not going towards Wolf Matuszka this time around.
Yeah, that was I just had a quick flick up at the timing board and saw he was ahead. I believe we've got the instant coming up in just a moment.
Well, as we have a bit of a dig through the replay views, we'll give you a little bit of RCI radio here as you look at some scenic shots of Brands Hatch. So it is still, well, it's not still Klaus Nearing that leads, it's now Wolf Matuszka that leads from Klaus Nearing and Mikael Sundström. And here we have a bit of a replay here, and this is exactly what happened to Klaus Nearing. So here we're coming out of Sector 1, and there we go. Just a bit eager on the power, makes the mistake, and Wolf Matuszka says, thank you very much. I will go on through, and yep, did very well to get the car back pointed in the right direction, though, has to be said. Good job on Klaus Nearing there, kept the car very much where it needed to be, and that does still give him a chance, potentially, of taking that first place back later in the race, as long as he can stick with Wolf Matuszka.
Yeah, but unfortunately, if you're Nearing right now, it doesn't seem like he is able to keep up with Matuszka, and it seems like Sundström is actually closing in on him. So not only has he lost the lead, he might even lose P2 here by the end of the race. I say he might lose it. I'm a bit jumping the gun a little bit there. Obviously, Sundström is a little bit back, but does seem to be closing the gap.
Mikael Sundström perhaps getting a bit of a second wind after seeing Klaus Nearing make a mistake. Nearly on pace driver looking to close that 1 second gap at this point in time. 2.5 seconds covering the top three. Further down, of course, Nico Kumpu in fourth and Gegeli Gaspar in fifth. Here is Bart Matcher, the highest of the cars that have completed a pit stop, and you can just see Matthew Kingston Lee was just ahead of them there. He hasn't completed a pit stop so far in this race, so catching right up to the back of the pack of drivers that haven't completed a pit stop, and it is Kingston Lee and Suominen kind of out on their own at the moment They're only about 2 seconds apart, but they are the best part of 17 seconds away from the rest of the pack.
So, Ryan, do we still think Bart Matcher is a cork in the bottle here? Because, I mean, he seems to be holding his own. Doesn't seem like he's got lingering all over his rear wing, and he just seems to be sort of running his own pace. They seem to have dropped Leffer back there in the 303, and Boardman is, well, on a recovery drive at the moment, isn't he? So I would like to see, I love watching the different strategies play out. You know, we've got obviously Matcher, who pitted lap 1, now the first, or leading the train of cars that have all stopped behind him. As we see, Lindgren looking quite feisty, really looking to get the move done, but I don't know, he doesn't seem like he's close enough. It seems like Matcher's doing everything he needs to do to just stay ahead. As you see Lindgren getting all in the mirrors, trying to throw Matcher off as they come down into turn 1. A little bit of a twitch there from Matcher. Lindgren's going to go through on the inside. He's going to have the inside for turn 2. Can he get it done later on the brakes? Can Matcher brave it on the outside? Oh, it's looking close, but Lindgren's going to have the outside for the next corner, and it's close. It's close. Oh, they give each other room. Oh my goodness, Ryan, that could have ended in tears.
Could have ended in tears, did not end in tears. Bart Matcher was not going to give up that place without a fight, and Olaf Leffer now looking interested on the back of Lindgren as well. I think Lindgren had thought they had that position done. They had it pretty much as a done deal, but Bart Matcher was really committed on the inside line coming into Graham Hill Bend. Really did not want to give that position up, and who can blame him? He's the highest of the drivers that have completed a pit stop so far. He wants the clear air ahead of him, doesn't want to be stuck behind someone, and well, doing a good job to maintain that 17th place over Christian Lindgren at this stage.
I can't believe we're seeing battles this intense for 17th. Like, that was a fight as if they were, you know, battling out for the lead here.
Well, I think the key thing to remember is it's 17th at the moment, but it won't be 17th come the end of the race, which is what matters to these two. And, you know, they could well be fighting up towards a top 5 position, so they have to, you know, they really have to think about these laps that they're doing and where they are at the moment. We're looking back from Matthew Kingston Lee's car. You could just see the pack back there at the moment, and they are starting to all bunch back up together at the moment. You know, you did mention that maybe Bart Matcher not so much of a cork in the bottle anymore, but I wonder if it's just a case of, you know, all the drivers going through phases of pace where they look good for a couple of laps, and then they go through a bit of a quiet period, and then it comes back again, and it definitely looks like that with how the gaps are fluctuating through some of the drivers in the midfield. It seems like a lot of drivers varying in pace on a lap-to-lap basis.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, again, we touched on it at the start, the new patch has anything to do with that. Obviously, the tyre physics changed. Obviously, if you really overdrive the car and maybe slide it a little bit or just get a bit too aggressive with you turning in, you will overheat the tyre and it will cause you problems later on. So perhaps maybe the slower drivers are aware of that and are just maybe babying their tyres a little bit. But as you said, maybe these phases we're coming through, drivers overdriving the car, driving aggressively, overheating the tyres and needing to back off to get the core temps back under control.
Could definitely be the case, as we see Mr. Suominen defending from Matthew Kingston Lee. This is the battle for 15th place as it stands on track at the moment, and well, these two are very quickly. Well, if Bart Matcher was the cork in the bottle is about to be passed on to Mr. Suominen, as Bart Matcher is getting ever closer to the back of Matthew Kingston Lee's car. And this is one of those things that you really don't want if you've gone for this strategy, isn't it, Nate? You know, you've pitted early, you've come out in clear air, you want to set those fast lap times, and then you come across some cars that are battling for position, they haven't done their mandatory pit stop, and they've got no reason to move out of your way.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I'm sure, you know, you've had it in some of your racing, I've had it in some of my racing. You know, you're on a really good strategy, be it a solo event or a team event, everything's looking well, and then suddenly just a car that maybe in this event, not so much you know you're faster than, but at this point in the race, you're faster than the car ahead of you, you know? And it's like, right, I just need to get past the car. As we see someone going wide there, was that Suominen then?
That was Suominen and Matthew
Kingston Lee
Kingston
going to go around
Lee.
the outside.
Who's
that just gone off?
Gone off? He's recovered the car. He did not hit the barrier. He has recovered it, but he has lost the place to Christian Lindgren and Olaf Leffer.
I think he did hit the barrier. I think he bounced clean off it.
Well, we'll have a look here, but this is Bart Matcher, I think, maybe just trying to capitalize on a mistake and maybe just being a bit too eager at this point, thinking he could take advantage of it. He can definitely gain a place here as Miska Suominen was slow. Oh, no, he did hit the barrier. You're correct, Nate, but probably not too hard and probably hasn't got too much damage on that car, but either way, not ideal for Bart Matcher. But he has got back past Olaf Leffer by the looks of it. And now he's got the likes of Christian Lindgren to get past as well, as we see Matthew Kingston Lee has come into the pit lane, but Miska Suominen is still ahead of these two behind.
Suominen will be taking a deep breath there after, you know, the excitement that just happened all around him. Got a little bit of breathing room as well, so have to see if he can just sort of hold on. But again, as we touched on before with the excitement, it's not his race. You know, he's not racing these cars. I mean, you don't have to get out of the way, as we've said, but it almost feels a little bit pointless from, you know, both sides of this battle, because all that's happening is Suominen slowing himself up by defending against the cars behind him, and obviously in turn the cars behind him are being backed up into the cars behind them, and they're using up their tires a little bit more aggressively because they're trying to find ways past. So I mean, Suominen, I guess, isn't doing anything wrong, but it just seems like he's also slowing himself up again from potentially catching anyone ahead of him.
It's inconvenient, isn't it? I think is probably the word
that is
you
a
could
good
use
word for it.
that you could use to describe it. It's not really convenient for either driver, as Miska Suominen does go deep into the corner, and I wonder if that was intentional to let Lindgren through, although Bart Matcher will be probably a bit frustrated that he hasn't managed to get through there. We've got someone off as well. That's the number 18. It looks like Paolo Lima's gone for a spin as well, as Bart Matcher will now go up the inside, and Miska Suominen isn't going to back off, but it doesn't look like they're going to challenge Bart Matcher too much, and that is Paolo Lima recovering from what looks like a spin. Yep, same thing as Klaus Nearing, except Paolo Lima didn't catch it as well as Nearing did. Just taps the barrier, but gets the car back on track fairly quickly and, well, goes on his way.
I'm noticing a lot more driver errors in this race than we have seen in previous events, Ryan.
I do agree, and I mean, part of that is definitely going to be, you know, the new physics update, I think, with overdriving the cars and how much more it can punish you. I think another part of it is going to be the new tyres, because as with 1.8, and as it goes forward now, all the tracks are using the new DHE tyre. Now, obviously, the British GT and Intercontinental circuits did not have the DHE tyres previously. Brands Hatch did have the DHE tyres, but only for the GT3 cars, not for the Porsche Cup, the Super Trofeo, or the GT4s, as far as I am aware. So there have been some changes. There's obviously the new tyres for the Porsche Cup cars. There is the new physics that they have to deal with as well. So yeah, it can be a variety of different things, and I think you are starting to see more mistakes out of the drivers, as they're, you know, still very new to a lot of the changes and a lot of the, you know, a lot of the ways they have to adapt their driving style now. I mean, we saw Wolf Matuszka not on pole position. We saw him struggling up until the very last lap of the qualifying session, and I mean, that kind of, in a way, tells you all you need to know, really.
Yeah, I think before we start this round, we probably should have set up a little drinking game. Is take a shot every time we mention new patch, new tires, new physics, 1.8.
Anyone got their bingo card out for tonight? If 1.8 was on your, if 1.8, the new tire model, the new weather model, If that was on your bingo sheet, cross them all out. We've hit every single one of those today. No rain by the looks of it, and it doesn't look like we are going to get any rain here today. So if you had rain on your bingo card, I'm unfortunately going to have to say you're out for the evening. But if you had Wolf Matuszka for a win, well, he's definitely on for that at the moment. 3.3 seconds out in front of Klaus Niering, but does not have the fastest lap of the race. That still belongs to the number 23, and that is fairly interesting because Wolf Matuszka has picked up 2 of those so far this season. Martin Lawrence has the other one. So Wolf Matuszka, whilst definitely the more consistent driver out on track, not the fastest driver over one single lap. It still belongs to Klaus Niering, as Miska Suominen has been passed by Olaf Leffer and then now soon to be under pressure from Andy Boardman.
One thing we can't cross off the bingo card is the commentator's curse. I have yet to curse anyone. But I'm going to see if I can change that. I've got 25 minutes, well, 24 minutes and a half. If we see, oh, was that Andy Boardman going for a move? Jeez, that was brave stuff. But, I mean, well respected by both drivers, you know. I think Suominen definitely didn't fight that as hard as he could have done. Definitely left the door open, but wow, I mean, that easily could have been both of them into the barriers.
Through Dingle-Dell and into Sheen as Andy Boardman goes up the order and past Miska Suominen. And a very, very nice move from the number 69. And this is what you get, isn't it, Nate? When you have drivers that seem to have a level of respect and a level of trust with each other on the circuit, they definitely, you know, they can put on good moves like this, and they kind of know that, you know, there isn't going to be any erratic movements from drivers and all sorts. A lot of the drivers do seem to be quite comfortable with each other now throughout the season. Imola was probably a big look-on point to that. And, well, as far as tonight has gone, we've had 4 investigated incidents, 1 warning, 3 racing incidents. It's looking like Imola so far, knock on wood, for the stewards.
Yeah, I mean, it's going well. I mean, nobody has made an outrageous move. You know, we've seen, you know, adventurous moves, for lack of a better word. I'm trying to think of a better word. I can't think of one at the moment. But, yeah, no one's sort of, like, gone into a corner deliberately 50 meters late, you know, in hopes of just bouncing off the other car. You know, as we've seen, everyone's been respecting each other. They've been giving each other racing room, as there is a car sideways on the inside of 30s. Who was that? Was that the 555? It was a 555.
Yeah, that's Matthew sideways. Kingston Lee. Unfortunate, and it's just one of those days, isn't it? By the looks of it, for the 555, just can't get anything to go right, and waiting patiently to rejoin the circuit safely, doing it very sensibly there from Matthew Kingston Lee, and now going to move out of the way for some of the cars that had blue flags showing for him. Meanwhile, Bart Matchup still looking to close the gap to Christian Lindgren. Hasn't seen the number 49 extend the lead too much. It's still sitting around 1 second, and Olaf Leffer just about 6/10 behind them as well. So still all going good for the 49, the 404 and the 308, but obviously the order in which all of those cars are is still yet to be determined finally, and 21.5 minutes to go of this race as Wolf Matuszka still leads from Klaus Niering and Mikael Sundström.
I can't help but feel if Matuszka does win this, it will be a very lucky and potentially gifted win. Not to take it away from him, but Niering did look like he had this completely under control until his unfortunate little slide. But then I suppose it's not a gifted win if the drivers ahead of you make mistakes, is it?
No, you've got to earn them, and if other drivers make mistakes and you don't, well, I mean, there's no other way to look about it. If you can keep the car clean, if you can keep the car on the road, and you can avoid all those off tracks and all those potential incidents, then, well, at least in my eyes, you're a superior driver, and that's what a lot of drivers, I think, it's one of those things that I think that some of them just overlook slightly. If you can keep it clean, if you can stay out of trouble, there's a lot to be gained through, just making sure you keep it clean. And we've seen that in some of the EWC races, Nate, with the post-race stewarding system. If you keep it clean out there for a 12-hour race and, you get to the end, say you finish 15th, but you've kept it clean, you haven't been involved in any incidents, you'd be surprised how many places you could gain post-race through a few other people, unfortunately, getting some takeout penalties applied to them and losing positions.
Well, I think there was an event recently, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, where a team finished 4th in the race, but actually got promoted to 1st because the 3 teams ahead of them all received penalties.
That is correct.
So yeah, as you said, keep it clean.
And in one of the EWC splits from Misano, one team has finished 3rd, but they will be promoted up to 1st because both of the cars ahead of them had penalties given to them. So, of course, that has promoted the 3rd place car up into the win. So if you do keep it clean, you can be rewarded handsomely for it. Bob Match is not going to be rewarded handsomely for going wide at Druids, though. And that's not going to help his race any so far. It extends the gap between himself and Lindgren, but now brings that gap between himself and Olaf Leffer into a bit more of a concerning distance. And, well, Andy Boardman is closing in as well. He's got his targets in his sight. And, well, for the runner-up in the championship at the moment, Nate, he needed a good race today. It just hasn't gone his way, has it?
No, unfortunately not. And, as we said, this was his chance to really, really take some points away from Wolf Matuszka, but sometimes, it's all just stacked against you, and this will be one that Boardman will be forever sort of thinking, where could I have changed that outcome? Could I have been a little bit more safe into turn 1? Could I have been a little bit more aggressive on my qualifying lap? He'll go back, I have no doubt, reflect on it, and come back at the next event much stronger.
Well, Andy Boardman will hope to come back stronger at the Hungaroring and see if he can find himself back up into the podium places. No luck for him so far today. He's in 15th at the moment. John Racer has come into the pit lane to complete their mandatory pit stop. Olaf Leffert still closing in on Bart Matcher with 17.5 minutes to go, and he was closing in, but he's done the exact same thing we've seen from Paulo Lima and Klaus Neering here today. Too eager on the power. He saw Bart Matcher go wide, he closed in, he was too eager on the power, taps the barrier, and that is, unfortunately, for Olaf Leffert, some places lost, and now he has cars ahead of him that he's getting... Oh no, these are not blue flagged cars, sorry. Jordan Daly has come in and done a pit stop, and he's come out behind John Aracer. So he's having to now try and find his way past cars that he was probably going to be ahead of if he had not made that mistake. And that's going to be happy days for Andy Boardman, who's gained a free place out of that, and will now have Bart Matcher within his sights.
Yeah, it seems Druids is catching a lot of drivers out today, just on exit there. It's just people getting a little bit eager on the power there. And unfortunately, yeah, just dropping it. And, it's wonderful to see it a few more times before the race is over. But interesting battle here for 16th. Again, you'd think this was for the race win with how hard they're racing each other. But it's interesting to see. It's really, really fun to watch. I don't have the caliber to be this kind of racer, as we see a racer giving a little squeeze there to Leffer, who's on, again, his own recovery drive. And it's just going to be Leffer out dragging it down the straight, but they're still side by side. Definitely paint was exchanged there, as we see Daly in the background just watching and waiting, maybe hoping that these two will again take each other out. And
he's going to have a look, though. Jordan Daly's going to have a look. Hoping he could maybe hang it around the outside. Going to go for the undercut here, try and cut it back on the inside. Didn't quite have the ability to do so, but there's the race leader just behind them as well. Jordan Daly won't want to see Wolf Matuszka in his mirrors because he's close to getting past John Aracer. John Aracer was very, very slow and squirmy out of the corner. Here comes Jordan Daly. He's going to try for the inside. John Aracer blocks the inside line, forces Daly to the outside. as the 197 now looks to come back up the inside. He's going to get side by side coming into Westfield. Is he going to get the job done? Yes, he is. And Jordan Daly gets the move done. Wolf Matuszka will say thank you very much. I will come on through as well, and I'm sure Jordan Daly will move over for Wolf as well. But Jordan Daly absolutely committed all the way from the outside of Graham Hill Bend. He did not give up, put on the pressure, and made it work through Westfield.
Yeah, that was fantastic to watch. Both drivers giving each other, again, racing room and respect between each other, and they both got through. It was hard racing, but, you know, ultimately very fair, and it was fantastic to watch.
Definitely fantastic to watch, and well, Wolf Matuszka putting on a masterclass of how to drive and how to win here today. He's still leading by 4.3 seconds, and it seems to be a bit of no man's land now for the three podium sitters. Wolf about 4.3 seconds ahead of Nearing, who is 7.4 seconds ahead of Mikhail Sundström. So the top three very much in their own bubbles at the moment. Lubomir Zeman, meanwhile, has Schalke for company, and they're currently rounding out the top 10 as it stands. So with 14 minutes of the race remaining, we have 12.5 minutes left of the pit window. We have 11 cars left in the race, still required to do that mandatory pit stop. Things can go wrong in the pit stops. You've seen it before. Drivers are a bit slow on the uptake, missed their mark, potentially speed in pit lane. And speeding in pit lane is something that we should probably mention, because there has been a little bit of an exploit that's been patched out in the 1.8 update. Previously, if you came into pit lane, you could cross the pit entry line over the pit lane speed that is allowed by ACC, but as long as you were in first gear and had the pit limiter enabled, you were allowed to get away with it. So you could effectively cross the pit line on the pit in at about 90 kilometers an hour, and it would still count you as okay because the pit limiter was on and you were in first gear. That has apparently been patched out completely now, and we saw a couple of drivers get caught out by it on Friday in the GT3 World Championship at Monza. So haven't seen any of that out here today, and well, if any of these drivers have been reading the patch notes, they're probably very aware that that has been patched out, and it's no longer something you can kind of take advantage of anymore.
I wasn't even aware that was a thing, so I mean, there's obviously people doing it. Oh, as we see Kuizma going a bit wide there, and, well, gifting the position there to Olaf Leffer, and obviously Wolf Matuszka slips through as well.
Get a little bit of a replay here as the helicam finds Nico Kuizma. Just clipped the curb, didn't he, on the inside, and that sent the car wide, and unfortunately for Kuizma, that will be one position lost, and Wolf Matuszka now ahead of Olaf Leffer. So he has lapped all the way up to 15th place at the moment. He will, of course, drop back when he comes in for his mandatory pit stop. But Wolf doing a pretty good job at this stage in the race. And here is Jordan Daly in 17th place. He hasn't had the best of races here today, and it's been very surprising to see Jordan Daly's change from, for example, the Lambo Super Cup, where we saw him competing up there for top 5 positions, race in, race out, in the GT3 Lambo, to be struggling a lot here in the Cup car. And it just does show how, even for some of the very, very skilled drivers, this car is a big handful, and it is, it's definitely not a series that you throw yourself into lightly.
No, absolutely. These cars require, fine amounts of precision, as we see Daly. Whoa, well held there, but unfortunately just going to allow the 699 through there. But, yeah, I mean, that fine example there. These cars really take a certain amount of driving. Was that him letting the place go?
That was, he let Nearing through. Klaus Nearing was just coming through, and obviously he was blue flagged, so I think Jordan Daly just letting him go. not wanting to get in the way of the second place car, who is 4.8 seconds down on Wolf Matuszka at this point. And Klaus Nering will want to be as close as possible to Wolf Matuszka in case there is some sort of issue for Wolf Matuszka when he comes into the pit lane. Maybe misses his marks, or maybe doesn't have the quickest pit stop. A bit slow to start, so Nering will want to be as close as possible. Now 5.2 seconds, did lose a bit of time there as well. And here is Bart Matcher. Now Andy Boardman on the back of his tail. They are fighting for 11th place at the moment with 10 minutes left. We've got a yellow flag down on the exit of turn 4. And I'm not sure who that is that's gone round. It's Carlson. Carlson has gone round the 134. He has got the car pointed in the right direction. He's not back on the track yet. He's still on the grass. Just looks like he's waiting for a safe opportunity to rejoin. But whilst all that is going on, Andy Boardman all over the back of Bart Matcher. And I mean, these two, we don't know where they're going to be fighting for. When it's all said and done. For a top 5 place here, and that's what they're going to fight for if they think they can get into the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Matcher made a little bit of a mistake there, which allowed Boardman to close up. And, Boardman's earlier slip exactly on this corner here is definitely going to fuel him. He's going to be driving like a man possessed. So, I reckon another slip up from Matcher in the 404 there, and Andy Boardman will, have no hesitation in really, really sticking his foot in the door and making his way through as they both run. Well, it feels a little bit wide, but a lot of drivers seem to be using that line, and it's brave stuff to go out there because that can get quite slippy.
Yeah, the drivers definitely quite brave, and the curbs, you have to be very careful with them now with the tram lining effect that you have. We have seen quite a few drivers get caught out by it as Mikael Sundström comes into the pit lane and serves his mandatory pit stop. We've also got Gregory Gaspar and Ethan Scott in the pit lane as well to complete their mandatory pit stop. So we'll have to see where everyone comes out. Just over 8 minutes to go, and for Bart Matcher, it's going to be a pretty exhausting 8 minutes by the looks of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't see him defending from Boardman for the rest of the race. Boardman is all over the rear wing of him, basically climbing into the back of his car. So, I mean, it might be one of those where it's easier to just let the car behind you go. Boardman gets a little bit out of shape coming in through there, which might just give Matcher the breathing room he needs to, well, fend him off for another 7 minutes. But when you're in this position, when you're holding up a car behind you who, you can see in your mirrors, like you'll get a gap and then they'll close up to you, and it's exhausting. He'll be wishing that this was the last lap, every single lap until it is the end of the race.
Well, Andy Boardman will continue his pursuit. Ooh, gets a bit out of shape. That'll help Bart Matcher. An absolute treat. And Lindgren in front will also be happy to see that. Andy Boardman just maybe pushing a bit too hard there, trying to keep up with Bart Matcher. And as you can see, Sundström, Gaspar and Scott all finishing their pit stops and coming out ahead of the 404. I think that was expected of all of those drivers to complete their pit stop and come out ahead. 6 or just under 7 minutes to go. So Mikael Sundström is now the highest up of the pitted drivers, and he should come back out in 3rd place once everything is said and done, and that would be a good result for Mikael Sundström. He did have a podium at the start of the season, got a podium when Martin Lawrence unfortunately messed up his pit stop and took tyres on the very last lap of the race. So Mikael Sundström on pace. Wasn't going to get a podium that day. Definitely on pace this week to get a podium, and probably well deserved as well. Could have had pole position as well, and who knows if he had got pole position, if he hadn't made that mistake through turn 1, could have potentially been a very different race. Nico Kuzma at the moment being chased down by John Eraser. It's a battle for 15th place on track at the moment, and you can see Jordan Daly just in behind as well. Going to see if he can get by the 699 and the 911 before the end of the race. But of course, hasn't been an easy day for Jordan Daly, and Mohamed Malik is now in the pit lane. Number 8 has decided that it's about time he comes into the pit lane and serves his mandatory stop. They only have about 3 minutes and 45 seconds left to get that pit stop done. And remember, you only have to be in the pit lane once the timer runs out. You don't have to have your stop finished by the timer running out. You just have to make sure that you're in pit lane by the time the timer runs out. And here we have a little bit of a replay of Jordan Daly going wide at turn 5.
Yeah, that's not going to help him catch the cars ahead of him. But that just shows how hard we're pushing, even still with, 4 minutes left. Nobody's really backed off yet. Everyone's still fighting for these last few positions. As we see Mohamed Malik come out, he's pitted and is now the... Oh no, he is behind Mikael Sundstrom. I think that was just a bit slow to read that then. But is that Gegli Gaspar behind him, pressuring him for the, for 8th place overall?
It is Gegli Gaspar putting some pressure on Mohamed Malik. So the number 8 will have company towards the end of the race as well in the 81, and 0.3 of a second separates these two as we come into the final 4 minutes of the race. And that's a mistake from Malik, and he's into the barrier as well.
That is a big off. That car is going to be heavily damaged.
We'll get a little bit of a replay. Oh, not really. The camera struggling to find the car at that moment, but Mohamed Malik made a mistake and into the barrier. That is not going to be good for the number 8. Obviously, like you said, Nate, significant damage on that car now. And, I mean, he'll have to hope that at least the damage isn't enough that he can just continue on and finish the race without having to make an emergency pit stop. But what that does mean for Mohamed Malik is that he is down in 9th place at the moment. And, well, with the damage he's retained, he probably is at risk of losing that 9th place from the likes of Lubomir Zeman, who has come out of the pit lane after serving his mandatory pit stop, same as Victor Nordqvist.
Yeah, I wonder if... Well, first of all, we got to replay what's happening here.
Oh, this is Mikael Sundstrom. Oh, no, this is when he came out of the pit lane and just touched with Andres Sarka. Andres Sarka still ahead of him by the looks of it. And, of course, the 818 has not come into the pit lane for their mandatory pit stop yet. They go wide through turn 8, and that will give up the place to Mikael Sundstrom. So Sundstrom will get that place back, although he was going to get it anyway once the pit stops had filtered out. And, oh, big development here. I did say I thought Mikael Sundstrom was going to come back out in 3rd place. He's not come back out in 3rd place. Niku Kumpu has usurped that podium position from Mikael Sundstrom in the final 3 minutes of the race.
I'm trying to find where they are on track to figure out how far back.
Turn 4 at the moment. Mikael Sundstrom making his way down towards turn 4.
That's a significant gap as well. I wonder if
8.7 seconds. There you go.
Yeah, I wonder if that gap, or not, sorry, that gap, the contact on pit exit. No, it wasn't a significant hit. I mean, it would have lost him.
8.7.
No,
it wasn't 8.7 seconds for sure.
No,
and that was a very long very short 8.7 seconds, should I say, if it was. So, as the pit window is closed, Wolf Matuszka is in the pit lane getting his pit stop served, and he is rolling again. Also, Nico Kumpu's pit stop was 8 seconds faster, we're being told, than Mikael Sundstrom, so...
Wow, unless Sundstrom had damage?
Or he missed his pit box.
Oh yeah, of course, I always forget
that could definitely be a possibility, that Mikael Sundstrom missed his pit box, and therefore was not able to get the car positioned correctly on the first time. That could have wasted him, or not really wasted, but lost him a lot of time. And Nico Kumpu apparently with the fastest pit stop of any driver today. So the fastest pit in to pit out for the number 6. And, well, if Nico Kumpu's been practicing those pit stops, it's come good through, and he's on course for a podium in the final couple of laps of the race, as Mikael Sundström is going to be too far back to take that place back. Wolf Matuszka, meanwhile, is looking to be, I believe, on the final lap of the race now. I don't think he's going to get to the line. No, he won't get to the line, so this is it. This is the final lap. 60 minutes of racing set to finish here tonight. It will be 4 wins in a row for Pink Performance. It is dominance. The Porsche Cup, it's the Matuszka Cup. And here he comes through the final corner. Wolf Matuszka, 4 in a row, and celebrations over the line for a fantastic race. He had to earn it this time around, starting 4th on the grid. Klaus Niering will get a good and well-earned 2nd place, as well as fastest lap of the race. And Nico Kumpu, with a fantastic pit in to pit out, will take 3rd.
Wow, that was definitely not quite the race we thought it would be. There was definitely some twists and turns in that one, Ryan. That kept us all on our toes.
Definitely did, and Mikael Sundström will come home for 4th place, and Victor Nordqvist looking like he will finish in 5th. Has Gegele Gaspar right behind him, but doesn't seem like Gegele Gaspar will make that place up. No, he doesn't. He will finish in 6th place. Ethan Scott crosses the line for 7th. Mohamed Malik will finish in 8th. He has a 5-second penalty to his name, though, as Lubomir Zeman will defend off Andy Boardman for that 9th place. So Boardman does crack back into the top 10. Lindgren gets 11th, Saka 12th, Leffer 13th, and Bart Matcher, with a great strategy, could only manage 14th place. From Quizma in 15th, the racer 16th, Daly in 17th, Lima 18th, and then Carlson, Kingston, Lee, Suominen, Van Kampen, and Varga are your finishers.
Well, what an exciting event we had here today. But overall, I think, you know, got my fanboy hat on, my little Wolf Matuszka fan club shirt on. I called it, said Wolf Matuszka would win it, and lo and behold, the reverse commentator's curse, he won.
Well, Wolf Matuszka making it 4 in a row, and absolutely fantastic. And this is what domination looks like, folks. You are watching pure domination in the Porsche Cup Series, and I think you will find it very difficult to pick out a quicker driver across the course of a season in the Porsche Cup. And Wolf Matuszka will pull into his pit box. He'll go celebrate with his team, as we will look forward towards next week and, of course, the rest of the week that we have coming up. So, nothing special going on Tuesday or Wednesday evening, of course, because the 1.8 update came out last week, so we have nothing planned for those 2 days. On Thursday, though, the GT4 Team Championship will continue. That will be heading out to Suzuka for round 5 of the championship on December 2nd. And then on Friday, you will get the continuation of the Friday Championship. Tinko van der Velde is the first repeat winner of the Friday Championship. Jaroslav Honzik with 1 win, George Boothby with 1 win, and Tinko van der Velde with 2. George Boothby will not be present at the race on Friday, as he informed us today that he is expecting the birth of his first child this afternoon. So congratulations to George Boothby, and of course we will miss him on Friday for Kaya Lamy on December 3rd. There is no Night Owl this weekend. If you're a fan of the Night Owl series, that will be on hiatus for just 1 week, because we have the EWC 12 Hours of Bathurst this weekend on Saturday, and of course those races would overlap. So Night Owl is taking a little bit of a bye week, and the drivers will have a bit more time to get comfortable with the new physics update for Night Owl, but Night Owl will return on the likes of, where is this? It's December 11th. I'm just trying to get the dates right. But yeah, December 11th for Nürburgring will be the next Night Owl series. And of course, we will be back in a week's time on December the 6th for the 5th round of the season at Hungaroring. And it will be Wolf Matuszka's first chance at wrapping up the championship. Do not miss it. Hungaroring is always a blast with the Porsche Cup cars, and we look forward to seeing you out at Hungaroring. But in the meantime, hope you have a wonderful evening. Big thank you to our sponsors and partners here, Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61 at Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. Of course, Race Department, if you want AC1 mods, or you want to keep up on all the sim racing news, you can check out them. AK Informatica for any computer or server needs that you may have. Driver 61, learn to drive and win like Wolf Matuszka with access to the Sim Racing Academy starting at just $10. You can get 25% off with the discount code in our description. Fanatec, use our affiliate link. It supports RCI and it doesn't cost you an extra penny. And of course, Sim Racing GP, if you want to start learning about how to create your own community for your friends or for some people as well, then Sim Racing GP is the perfect platform for you. It's been a fantastic race here tonight. We hope you have enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you on Thursday for the GT4 Championship.